Ah, Good morning. I think we're about to start now with induction. Right. Hello, people from Cape Town. Can we know if you are in the call? Fantastic. South Cape, people from South Cape, Lunabo, Zube, anyone? Okay, South Cape people are still sleeping. Hello, Fanny. How are you? Good, good. Right.
Yes.
Okay, Lunabo. Yeah, yeah. The sun comes out there, that side. Okay. As I said, we are about to start with induction day two. Tomorrow is day three, and it's the last day of induction, meaning the last day for you to relax. Now, after that, we get into the semester. What I'd suggest, maybe have something to take notes with, because you really okay. You don't need to take notes because we're gonna send you the slides. But please take note of everything that will be said today, because it's very important so that you don't come back to us and say, I need to. Okay, all right. I think we can kick it off. Plan for today is session one. We will be talking the curriculum, the LMS, Git, introduction to command line. We're gonna talk VS Code with Fan. Let me just put Fan up there so everyone can see from. There's more here in Japan. Let's right. So very fantastic. And then thereafter, we're gonna talk in session two. We're gonna talk the overview of your first semester at Code with some from the performance team. Then we're gonna do a quick technical session with Lee, who's gonna take you through the curriculum, sorry, the communication tools we have, and also an introduction to Matrix, a new system that we're using for communication. And lastly, we're going to have one talk to us about requirements for QCTO. Some of those questions that you guys had about metric and NPF6. Today you have your chance to speak to the guy who actually does that for a living. I'm sorry if you're in the call to one. Um, then I think now we can hand over to you, Fen, so you can do what you do best. Fen?
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we can get started. Could you hand the screen share to me, maybe? I want to show them some cool stuff on GitHub. Cool.
Give me a second.
Ready. Let me know when you're ready. In the meantime, I should probably introduce myself. So I'm Fen. I am the resident dork/nerd at We Think Code. I've been programming basically my entire life, and my job is to build tools for y'all to learn as effectively as possible. Sometimes I contribute to the curriculum. And I'm also here for technical questions. So today I wanted to show you how you're going to be doing your work at We Think Code and all of the tools that you need to succeed. So it's going to be a little bit different from how it was at bootcamp. At bootcamp, you had that Embark platform where you only needed that platform, right? You were writing small amounts of code in a little text box in your browser, and it was just one file, and all the tests were already there for you. Unfortunately, software engineering in the real world is a little bit more complicated than that, or maybe fortunately, if you're weird like me and you enjoy it. So we're going to be talking about how real world developers handle much larger and more complex code bases. So we're going to be looking at Git, which is what we use to share code with other developers, and also so that we don't have version 1, version 2, final, final, final. If you've written a school essay or something like that, you would have encountered that. We're also going to be talking about the command line in a movie where they've got this black screen with the green text and they're typing away, and there's no windows or graphics or anything like that. That's the command line, and it's not quite as cryptic as it's made out to be. It's quite boring, actually, and we're going to be using it a little bit as developers because sometimes there's no better option. We're also going to be talking about VS Code, which is like Notepad, but for weird people like us who are interested in checking whether you'll get a syntax error or not, or quickly navigating between lots of different files, or clicking a button to push to Git instead of having to type a bunch of commands. These are most of the tools that you'll be using day to day. Jay, how are we doing on the presentation? Is everything good?
Think you have all the powers, Philip.
Sorry?
You have the power to share. You're the one who's sharing actually.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So everything's good. I can keep going and show stuff on my screen.
Yes, you can.
Okay, cool. Great stuff. So I wanted to start by showing you a real world software engineering project. So a lot of you would have heard of open source. This is an anarchistic movement by software engineers with some free time for free with the world, and also share the source code so that you can see exactly how the software works, and also through Git how it was made. And I think this is a really valuable learning resource. And I was thinking about what project to show you, because I mean, you've used a lot of open source software in your life. You've probably used Google Chrome, which is based on Chromium, which is an open source project. Or maybe you've used Firefox, which is also open source. During your stay at We Think Code, you'll use Linux, which is an open source operating system. Python, the programming language, has an open source interpreter called CPython, which is the standard one. There is so much open source software in your life. Android is open source. You might use that. But the project that I've chosen to show you this morning is Blender. Some of you might know Blender. It's an open source 3D modeling software. I really like Blender. So what we're looking at here is Blender's GitHub repository. You can see there's a ton of folders and files in here. They've got a nice description of the software. So there's pictures and links. But the key thing I want to point out is this little button here. It says 146,375 commits. So in Git, what's happening is that it's tracking a bunch of files, and each change to any of the files in the repository is called a commit. I know it's a bit of a weird word. And updated 146,000 times throughout its development. And if I click here, I can see every single change that has ever been made, along with a very nice description of what the change was. Like here, they're talking about the sculpt mode. When there's a brush called a plane brush, which they're fixing how it interacts with some of the parameters of the 3D model. And then you can see exactly which code changed. So here we can see they added 9 lines and subtracted 8. Exactly what changed and why, with this very nice description. It went through something called a pull request, which is where if I make a change, I get to ask my team members, hey, can you please look at this change and check whether I did that? Some projects were. It's such a nice collaboration tool. And if I want to download the source code for Blender, I can just clone the repository. Now, when you clone a repository, you will immediately see the selection, HTTPS, SSH. And this is because when you're working with a Git server, like a GitHub, it needs to know who you are. So, I mean, you're used to logging in, like on your email, you'll log in. But it's a little bit different with Git. So the way that Git works is that it authenticates you through something called an SSH key. Okay, in this spotty. This is unfortunate. Cool. Here's how I'm going to recover. I'm on the fast Wi-Fi. This is the fastest Wi-Fi available to me. I'm just going to keep going. And you can rest assured, everything I'm talking about is in your curriculum. So you won't miss anything necessarily. And then I'm just going to cross my fingers and pray it gets better. So I was talking about Blender. When you are authenticating with a Git server, you've got an SSH key, which is like a fancy password. You don't pick it, it's generated for you. And then you just tell the server, hey, I've got this password. And then you can use Git commands from there on forward. And that's under the SSH tab. So setting up your SSH key and configuring your local Git so that it knows how to authenticate with the Git server. And that's going to be something that you do this week. And it's basically some commands in your curriculum that you'll have to copy. You might have to disentangle it a little bit because over here under programming tools, you'll see Git and it talks about, but it doesn't necessarily give it to you in the right order. I don't recall. So I can disentangle a little bit what should be done in what order for Git. And we could just tell. And I guess that brings me to the learning philosophy of our curriculum. So you can see here, we've made a little graph of what we think a software developer is. And there's 5 key skills to being a software developer. The first one is obviously you need to be able to program, and there you'll be working with code and data. But software is more than that. Like what we saw code there, but they've also got a CI/CD pipeline. You'll learn what that is, and it's running tests. So the software is constantly being tested, and there's pull requests where teams have this way of collaborating that guarantees multiple people have had their eyes on every single change coming into the code base. And you can go on Blender's website and download the most recent version, right? But that's all automated. There's automations for that stuff. So that means, and that's just stuff that's common to all engineering fields, making sure it works, automating processes and operations, stuff like that. How do you collaborate with other developers? What's your minimum standard for how many people have to see each line of code? And how does that interact with your ways of working? So you'll hear buzzwords like Scrum or Agile to keep track. Also has to be a great communicator. I've realized in my career, software development is just as much about diplomacy as it is about anything else. And so refining your communication skills in every possible interpretation of the word communication is very important for making sure that you're working on the right thing and that you get to work on the stuff that you want to work on and you're advocating for your ideas and your opinions properly. Project looks like at We Think Code. Everything that you need to do from start to finish for a project, just so that you get an idea of how it'll work. After that, I think we can do some questions, and then I'll hand it back to performance team. Let's take Hello World as an example. So here on your curriculum, there's a bunch of stuff for you to go through. Actually, first, I want to highlight something. There's this document called Learn How to Learn Better. There's a lot of here. Something that irritates me is that students don't study this document. If this is an extremely information dense document, and I want you to, because basically every issue that you run into is addressed in this document. So I'll go over it in this project. Expect you to do this week. It's a pretty, you've done my bootcamp, then you have already written it. But this time we're just using it to teach you out. The idea is just that you create a Python program called greet.py that prints hello world. The first thing is to create the Git repository. Now we don't use GitHub at WeThinkCode except for your portfolio internal GitLab instance. It's very similar to GitHub. It's just private to we. What we're going to do is learn how to create a project, and this covers everything from GitHub to GitLab. They all work as hello world, and it's under my username. It's private to me, and I can create the project. So now I've created a Git repository. I'm going to clone this Git repository, and this is where we will see our friend the terminal for the first time. So remember that hacker scene from The Matrix? This is now the time that we will use it. I'm going to run a couple of commands in code. I wonder if you can guess what this command does. It creates a folder. So I run make dir my code. I run cd my code. CD stands for change directory. So I'm moving into that folder now. You know, when you're using Explorer on Windows and you're clicking around folders, clicking the back button, trying to find your file, it's the exact same. Git clone, and then the repository URL. So this is our first Git command. Clone just means, hey, I'd like a version of this on my computer so that I can work on it. I click enter. It will now download my files. Wonderful. Called my hello world. This is the same name that I just gave my repository. And in here, I can open my editor. I'm using the VS Code. So I can see this automatically generated README Blender. I'm going to try and make something similar. I don't know who enabled Copilot here. We'll chat about Copilot in a second. You know, it's not on GitHub, it's on GitHub project. I think it was meant to be called Greek.py. I type print hello world. Great. I think I'm done. So I'm going to go git status. It tells me that I've modified the README and that I've added a file. You can read it in detail and try and figure out everything that's going on here. But I'm going to stage all of them. That just means I'd like to make a commit, which remember means change, that has all of these files in it. It's weird. And then I'm going to give a message, just like those messages that we saw. I added greet.py with potential solution. I don't quite know if this is exact yet. And then I'm going to run git push. So git push means I've got some stuff on my computer that I'd like to upload back to the server. And so it says, cool, let me do that for you.
Ben.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you just give me a minute? There's an announcement I need to make quickly.
Great.
Just a minute.
No problem.
You may continue then. Thank you.
Cool. So we have just run git push for the lab repository, my hello world, and refresh, just so we can see what happened. It says added greet.py with potential solution. Great stuff. My greet.py is here. It's got my code that I wrote. Wonderful. Splendid. And now, if I look at history, I can see that there's 2 commits. It's a bit less than 140,000. But we've made our first meaningful progress towards a proper project. Now, I might think I'm done at this point because I have written all of the code for the project. But I didn't read this in much detail, did I? This is the first danger that you will encounter. It is very tempting to skim these project specifications, but they actually have quite a lot of detail in them. And if you don't read them carefully, you might think they're vague. I promise you they're not vague. There's some stuff here that I just skipped over completely. It says, let us know what project you're doing. We need a little bit of help to know which projects you're doing in which repositories. Because I can't look at the name of your repository and the code in your repository and guess which project you were trying to do, right? You remember when you were little and you thought, how does my hair know how long it is? How does it know to stop growing? This is one of those times. It's good to think in terms of when you're programming. The question is, how do we know what project you're doing in this repository? Do we try and guess based on the name? I don't think that's good enough. So what we did is we made a little standard that we use. You'll make a file called exercises.toml in a directory called .lms, and then put in this little bit of configuration that lets us know, oh, you're doing fun x hello world. So that's fundamentals exercise hello world. Make sense? Cool. So we need to, where did I put it here? We need to make a folder called .lms. Exercises.toml is the name of the file, and you have to spell that exactly correctly, by the way. Computers are very picky about these things. And I'm going to put in that code that the curriculum said to put in. Now we can make our next Git commit. Look at Git status. It says there's some untracked files. Configure activity ID correctly. Git push. So you see I'm documenting the change I made and why. I'm not just saying, oh, I added exercises.toml. I'm saying I specifically want to configure the activity ID correctly. Great. So I keep misplacing my tabs. Now that I've pushed and committed that, what will happen at the moment, I'm going to get an email on my phone with a cracked screen to my student email, letting me know how I did on this project. It might say, have you considered this and this and this? Because I think you can still do more work here. Or it'll say, oh, you did everything correctly. Congratulations, you've passed the project. Now, it can only do that if I've got my .lms and exercises.toml set up correctly. So you actually want to set that up as basically the first thing you do, and then you can get started. Whenever you want feedback, you can make a commit and push, and hopefully, if everything goes right on the system, you'll get feedback on email or on Matrix. This is kind of like real life, where if you want feedback on code, usually what you'll do is you'll push it to a repo, and then maybe you've got a code review process, or maybe you should just message someone and ask for their opinion. It depends on how things are at your workplace. But generally in the real world, if you want feedback, you'll make a commit and push it somewhere. Cool, and that's the basics of how to do a project at We Think Code. If you look at the specification for Hello World, it's got some steps. It kind of tells you, hey, do this, then do this, then do this. That's not going to last, because that's not how you're going to get specifications in real life. And I just want to reference back to this Learn How to Learn Better document. The way that software engineering works is a little different from other jobs you might have had. You might have worked a job that had a very specific set of requirements and a set of tasks that you need to do, and a very specific way to do them. So like, say you're a cashier, you get trained exactly on what to do when, and your job is kind of repetitive. Software engineering has a different angle of challenge. Yes, you don't have very unbearable customers constantly in your face, but what you do have is people who want software and don't know very much about software. And a consequence of that is that when they ask you to do things for them, generally it'll come as, oh, I want XYZ thing, and I'm so excited about this new feature, and I want to achieve this, and oh, I have this vision. It's not, hey, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, right? From one to the other. So the more advanced you get at programming, your specifications are going to get less and less clear. They're going to get more and more high level and ambitious and talk about what the user wants to achieve. And that's very different from school, right? In school, when you're taught things like the idea of knowledge is that you've been told a thing and definition of what knowledge is and how it works. Because essentially, you've learned how to pass a test, you've learned how to remember something, but that doesn't work with programming, because programming isn't about doing something that someone else has already done again. It's not about remembering information that was given to you necessarily. It's a creative field. And to understand something creatively is different from just knowing about it. It's a critical kind of engagement. You need to understand why things are the way they are, not just that they are that way. You need to be able to spot flaws in the systems that are being taught to you, not just accept them as perfect. And I think when I look at students, the biggest challenge I see, yeah, I'm giving you an overview of some of the technical stuff that's a burden in the first few weeks, but slightly longer term, folks struggle with the shift in learning philosophy. So I really want to reemphasize this document. You need to adopt some new learning strategies to help you engage critically with the content you're learning and not just remember stuff. So there's a ton of tips here, like please teach people. It helps you find a new way to interact with the content. We want you to keep notebooks and stuff. Write design documents. Plan out, okay, I've been given this specification. Let me break it down into steps for myself. So yeah, please study this document. And yeah, there's a difference between a vague specification and a high-level specification. A vague specification is one that doesn't tell you what the customer wants, really. It's not something that you can compare a piece of software against and say, yes, this fits, or no, this doesn't fit. That's different from a high-level specification, which, yeah, a high-level specification doesn't tell you what to do step by step. But it still unambiguously refers to one piece of software. You just have to do a lot more thinking to get there. So sure, if you find a specification doesn't include detailed steps and you don't really know what to do, that's normal. It doesn't mean that the spec is vague per se. It means that you need to ask around or Google, or maybe just sit with a notebook and try and figure it out for 30 minutes or an hour, right? Yeah, that is my spiel. I've shown you VS Code and the basics of Git and GitLab, how to use the curriculum, and a little bit of the command line. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the curriculum itself and how your time at We Think Code will be spent, and then we can do questions. So for your first semester, we're going to be going over just the fundamentals of programming. So there's going to be lots of different projects in different domains. The point is that we're going to teach you all the basic features of Python. So how to write unit tests and going over all the bootcamp stuff again, like loops and variables and data types and things like this. And the point is that you start to see, oh, these projects are all very different, but they've got the small set of things in common. Programming is about seeing the commonalities that will hopefully orient your brain towards finding identities and equations and commonalities, because that is what enables programming to work. It's the fact that for loops and data types are in common between all activities that you want to do that enables programming to be possible. And you'll also learn Python, which may or may not be your first programming language. It's a great starting place. I learned Python some 15 years ago now, and I still love it. It's such a great language, and I'm really excited to get to teach you some Python. After that, we'll be doing object orientation. So in the industry, and in particular, some of our largest sponsoring industries, like the financial sector, for example, object-oriented programming is very popular. So the language that really popularized object orientation in the industry is called Java. It's a very popular corporate programming language. Tons of code is written in Java, and there's lots of jobs dedicated to maintaining those code bases. So we're going to be teaching more than half of this course in Java. Object orientation, your second module, is where that'll be introduced. We're going to build slightly bigger and more complex things. After that, you'll be diving into working on big, existing, messy, dirty code bases, ones that have bad code in them or have lots of bugs, and also working in teams. It's a mess, honestly. But it's a mess that you'll learn to navigate and maybe even enjoy. And then in your third module, we'll be covering distributed systems. So nowadays, software doesn't exist on one computer anymore. A lot of software is web apps where there's a server involved, not just your machine. And it might be connecting different machines together. So it's very important that we understand distributed systems. After that, there's electives. There's electives that dive more into distributed systems like systems integration. But we've also got some cool other electives. I think my favorite one is the mobile development one. That one covers Flutter, which is a really cool technology. That's where you'll get to pick, from your perspective, what are you most interested in. That's one of my favorite parts of the curriculum, personally. And then after that, you will have your internship placement, which a lot of people find, at least in prior years at We Think Code, the workload in your internship will be a little bit lower than at We Think Code. And I like that. I like that We Think Code gets you used to a high volume of work. And then when you get to your job, it feels easy. That's the ideal. That a good job and a healthy job is one that feels easy, because you need to stay in this for decades on end, remember? So it should feel nice. You should enjoy it. And I think We Think Code really sets you up for that. And then you'll graduate. So that is just a quick overview of your time at We Think Code. This fundamentals module that you're going to do now is extremely important, because software engineering is full of what are called threshold concepts. That means if you don't understand them, like if you don't understand for loops or you don't understand lists, you don't understand unit testing, right? It's so much harder to learn other things because you don't know those concepts. If you don't digest the stuff in fundamentals, you're going to find all of the other modules so much harder to learn from. So I beg you, if you don't engage with fundamentals more than the minimum and train yourself to care and be interested and be curious, I don't think We Think Code will work very well for you. We're not a learning institution for everyone. We value people that are responsible for their own learning, that are very curious about programming. And those things are not just values that we plaster on our homepage. They're necessary for you to succeed with this curriculum. So learn to cultivate those things. And then I personally think fundamentals is very fun and enjoyable, and you'll build some very rewarding projects in this module. So I'm very excited to get started. Okay. I think that's about everything that I needed to talk about. So we could take questions.
Okay, anyone questions for Ben? Two, three, four. Okay, we have 4 questions in slide 5. Let's start with Tom. Yeah. Can you elaborate more on Copilot then in under 2
Oh,
minutes?
yes. I was just thinking about that. I said we'd talk more about Copilot later, and then I never did. So that brainware document that I pointed you to has some stuff on this. I think we can write more in there about Copilot. But okay, all of you would have heard AI in recent months on some sort of investor call or YouTube video or something. You would have heard AI. There's even YouTube compilations where they look at like the NVIDIA investors call and they just cut out where they say AI. And it's like AI, 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 AI. It's so funny. So this is a big thing that's happening to our industry, that there are these LLMs and people call them AI, and they're like, oh, they're going to replace software developers, and they can write better code than most developers, and they can pass lead code and code forces tests. And lead code is exactly like having a software engineering job, right? You just do lead code all day. And no, you don't do lead code all day. But there's a study that I don't have to hand right now, but it was studying the impacts of students using ChatGPT for studying and for learning. And it found that there's 2 ways that you can use these tools like ChatGPT. One of them is that you can use it to get you answers. And the problem with that is that these students don't perform in exams, they don't perform in work situations, they are measurably less productive when they get to work. So I know that these code generating tools are marketed as making you more productive, and that's true in the short term and the opposite of true in the long term. They make you learn less from what you're doing. So in a context like We Think Code especially, where the projects themselves don't matter, and all that matters is what you take away from them, we very strongly suggest don't use ChatGPT to generate code. There's a different way you can use ChatGPT, which is you can tell it, hey, I'm struggling to understand this concept. Can you explain it to me, tutor me a little bit, give me some questions that I can answer, stuff like that. And yeah, it's not as immediately rewarding to use it that way, but these students perform better than the control group that didn't have access to LLMs. So there is a way you can use it to benefit you, but you have to be intentional about it, and you have to cultivate learning how to learn, which again is that brainware document. So I know I've been rambling a little bit, but I think it's important to touch now when you're starting on Copilot, which is a little extension you can put in your IDE and it generates code for you. And sometimes it's correct, and a lot of the time it's schlop. You do not have the, well, probably a lot of you will have coded before, but a lot of you don't have the ability to immediately tell, oh, this code looks correct, but it's not actually. So don't incorporate it into your workflow. It will set you astray. It will reduce your learning. If you're using it, use it as a tutor and not as a teammate per se. Okay, cool. Other questions?
We can see Ben gets very excited with such things. All right. What is the second question? Yes.
I'd like to ask, you were speaking about.
Yeah.
I'd like to, when you're working on a project and come across certain tools and not project,
Yeah.
would you say that, or like what advice would you give? Would you prioritize learning just specific sections needed to complete the project, or would you learn the whole framework of the or future knowledge in your other projects?
Any other questions? I'm printed at my I could say.
I was just on that, game commit,
Yeah.
I'm the switch on software. Sometimes when
Friend, what would be your advice on the frequency of commit?
So, if you are committing code that has syntax errors, you're probably committing too frequently. And if you are changing multiple things per commit, you are probably committing too infrequently. So the ballpark for a commit is that you are changing between 5 and 50 lines of code. 50 is even a little bit big, right? So a commit should be a change from a working program to another working program. It should be as small as possible. It should have one reason, and it should have that reason very clearly summarized in the commit message. That way, on a working day, let's say you write 100 lines of code a day, which is very, very reasonable. You are making somewhere in the ballpark of 5 to 15 commits a day. That's a good granularity to be working at. Even if it's down at like 2 or 3 commits a day, and you're writing a couple dozen really high quality lines of code a day, that's fine. That's a great level of productivity in my view. The commit is that it is separating a unit of change. You should be able to run your tests for every commit. You should be able to revert different features independently just by choosing which commits to undo, right? The point of sizing them this way is that it enables all of the features of Git, like being able to cherry pick commits, or see commit histories, or see the Git blame and things like this, for those features to work correctly, which as you explore those tools, you will get a better intuition of it. You need to size your commits in the way that I'm describing. Hopefully that's helpful. Next question.
I think it's also the response. Uh, just two questions and then we close with Ben. Yes. I'm sorry. You had a hand up first.
My question is what is your place?
Okay, you answered correctly. Yes, my lady.
I wanted to ask you something. Um, how do you think about using force, especially when it comes to education? Because sometimes they like education, they have like my hand something.
Someone who's way ahead of everyone. They're asking what's the purpose of using the flag, force, the force flag when you commit.
The force flag. So the force flag, there's only, I think, one command on Git that has a proper force on it, and that's push. So Git is designed to never lose information. When you are making changes in a Git repository, even if those changes are deleting code or deleting files, Git doesn't ever ideally lose information because what's being tracked is changes, and deletion is just another type of change, right? So the logic is that if you're using Git correctly, you're only ever adding information and you'll never lose any work. Even if you delete all your files and push it, and then you decide the next day, I want my files back. I was a mistake. You can go get them because Git is an append-only system. You're only adding information into it. However, sometimes you will do things like, oh, I want to undo this commit, or edit the author on this commit, or I want to rebase my branch, that means putting in a commit earlier in the history. If you want to make changes like that, you are technically breaking one of Git's primary guarantees, which is that you'll only ever add information. Because now you are actually going in and modifying or deleting information. And in this case, Git has an extra feature to protect you, which is that it lets you know, hey, this thing you're doing is breaking one of the guarantees I give you. And that might be a mistake. So please think very carefully about what you're doing, because you might be actually losing information by doing this. That is the force flag. If I have a repository on the server that has 140,000 commits, and I've got a local repository that has 2 commits, and I try and push my repository to the server, it's going to say, that's going to lose information. I'm not going to do that, sorry. Unless I type -f, force. Then it's going to override everything on the server with my local repository. It's going to delete all of the commits that I don't have. And that might be a substantial loss of information. But sometimes you have to do that. For example, if you're rebasing a repository, then that workflow includes the push -f command. You should not have to do this particularly often, if ever. And you need to be very careful about it because you could actually lose your work. So that's the design rationale of why the -f flag exists, and also when you will use it, and also a warning against using it. Cool. Any other questions? Maybe on YouTube from South Cape?
I think South Cape is still sleepy. Right. Yes. I think there's one question, then we're gonna close. Yes.
Great.
Promise.
What's the time? I don't know, but I get the time and that's the ID username, especially when you get code, because if you get code, especially works here. Every comment, it will show you the username of the get code of it. But some Linux server, they just want you to configure the user as well as the name in order to can push your things. So in the Linux that we are using now, you have to configure your email and your user in order to effectively get pushes and
I think it's a simple one, but let me just put it to you because they asking you then. Was there be a purpose for Git configure for the purpose of learning and reading code?
Yeah, so there's a command called git config. Is that the command in question?
The comment, but they're asking what would be the purpose of configuring the username and the email.
Oh, yes. So Git is also an attribution system. Let me briefly share my screen again because I want to show you something cool. Whoops. Okay, here we go. You should be seeing the Blender repository again. I just like Blender, okay? Forgive me. Yeah, this is the commit we looked at just now, and it's modifying this file called sculpt.cc. Let's see if we can view this file. Yeah, we can. Great stuff. So this is a bunch of C code. This file is quite long. It's a couple thousand lines of code. But what if I want to know this big button here called blame? Well, I mean, sometimes if you've introduced a broken piece of code into a repository. So, oh, this file is too big. Let me see if there's a smaller file. Let's say paintmask.cc. How big is this file? Oh, it's substantially smaller. It's only 1,000 lines of code. You probably won't be writing files this big at the moment, don't worry. Yeah, so here we can see the code, but on the left it's grouped by which commit last changed this code. And you can see the mask offset data was written by Hans Goody. I'm not sure I know how to pronounce that last name. But you can see exactly the reason that this code changed and who did it. So let's look at Hans's profile. Okay, not too much stuff on here. Apparently this guy also works on like image generators and stuff like that. Also a computer science student. We're stalking now. But basically, Git keeps track of who made what changes, not just what changes were made. And in order for it to show your avatar and your name and your commit history and your contributions, like if I click on insights here, contributors, I can see who contributed the most code. I can see who's active and when. And then on a person's profile, you can see what days they worked and how much around 2012, and then dropped off for a bit in late 2022. Like all of this kind of analytics that Git does is all fundamentally powered by you configuring your name and email when you make commits. So that's the fundamental purpose of that command. Cool. I'm spending too long on these questions. I apologize. I just really like these technologies. I think we can wrap up now. Thank you for paying attention to my weirdness. And I really hope that you fall in love with these technologies as as much as I have.
Okay. Thank you so much.
They have changed my life completely. Cool. Cheers.
Yes. All right. So now we're gonna have the song from the performance team. Wissam.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Let me just get what I need to get. Give me a second. Righty. Let me just share my screen quickly. Okay, just to confirm, can you guys hear me clearly? Am I completely audible? Just confirmation. Confirmation from Wonder Boy. Jay, are we good on your end? You can hear me clearly. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Um, I'm Busang from the performance team. And today we'll just be going through some ground rules. So Fen just went after this before the session, and I'm sure there was a mouthful, and some of you it might have been overwhelming, right? Uh, mm, and the aim is to get you to that level, right? So what Fen went through are basics, um, but yeah, and there's more to come as well. But the aim is for us to get to that level, and for you guys to also just be able to explain all that Fen explained. Uh, so by the end of the program, after we have baked you and cooked you and fried you, you would be able to answer those questions with the confidence that Fen would answer them, right? So that's our job, right? Now, the session is going to be quite long. We'll be reading through quite a few things. And so I would recommend that if you guys have any questions as I'm speaking, just ask Jay, like, hey Jay, I have a question there. Or I think Zubir is also on the call for SCC. Just hint at Zubir, like, hey Zubir, I have a question. Because we're going to be moving quite. I'm going to try to move quite quickly as well, right? So please don't be scared to just stop and ask questions on the spot. All right. I hope that was clear. Okay, cool. So, yesterday you went through the code of conduct with the operations team, and that's literally the holy grail. So those are the rules of just within code, you are an ambassador, and all of that. How you should behave, how you represent within code now that you are part of the within code, how you are ambassador for within code, when you are in and out of the building within code and all of that, right? So those are rules of just being a within code. But again, we are here for academics, right? So now there's ground rules to that as well. So essentially, what we'll be going through we'll be going through that. Uh, so what we expect from you throughout the 16 months, as I told you, that the 16 month will go by very quickly, but at the same time, very slowly. So we'll be going through what we expect from you in the 16 months, what you would expect from us, what are the ground rules, the do's and don'ts, um, and consequences, and yeah, and all of that. All right. So that's essentially what we'll be going through here. So yeah, so we have this document here. So this document will be shared with you guys at a later time. We're just refining it a bit for you guys. Yeah, so it will be shared with you. So what this document is quite similar to that code of conduct. So this one we call it a performance policy package. It has everything to do with in terms of academics here at Within Code, right? Um, yeah, so we call it the 3P in short, the performance policy package. So this is going to be a holy grail in terms of your performance just in Within Code,
Tom,
right?
mhm.
So mhm,
Your audio keeps fading out.
it keeps fading.
Yeah.
Mm, okay. I wonder how it is now. I can't tell. Or should I just speak up? Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, I'm not sure. See, yeah. Lee is saying that the audio is fine on his end. I don't know. Is it a network issue on your end? Maybe.
uh the connections and we don't have it. Okay, okay. Let's just keep trying that. It's fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's give it some time and see if it persists. If it persists, maybe I'll change my Wi-Fi connection. I don't know. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I hope you can hear me because what quite important. Um, yeah, we don't want you to miss anything, right? Yeah, we don't want you to miss anything. So technically, we should just send you this, and you guys will just go over it, and yeah, you should have been fine. But we do trust you enough to go through it. But then we're just going through the technicalities so that our wires are not crossed, so that everyone is on the same line. All right, sure. So we'll just be going through like what is the performance policy package and why it is important, and we'll go through the standards that we set and what we actually expect from you. And then we will continue and then go through the graduation eligibility, how you actually get to graduate from Within Code, what criteria you need to meet per semester, and yeah, the rules, right? And then from there on, we'll go through, yeah, and then from there on, we'll just go through some performance warnings and we'll go through our cheating policy and uh, how dismissals look, everything code. All right, sweet. So that's just an overview. So we'll just continue. Jay, in the meantime, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sweet. I guess that's sorted then. Yeah, keep me in the loop if you guys struggle to hear me. Um, I'm wondering for SCC, is Zubair here? Just for confirmation, because I'm not seeing him in the call. Or is SCC on YouTube? I'm just going to assume it's a yes. Lonabo's here.
Yes,
Lonabo,
yes,
oh,
SEC is on YouTube. So the internet keeps cutting. What we plan on doing is doing a recap tomorrow,
sure,
and
sure,
hopefully
sure,
any
sure, sure.
questions raised will forward them to you.
Okay, no problem. I think maybe the session will be recorded because this is quite important. So
Oh,
if they need to go through it, then they'll just go, yeah, they'll just rewatch. Okay.
okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Lonabo. Thank you, Lonabo. Sure. So what is this the 3P document? So this is basically, it's just a comprehensive breakdown of what we expect from you and what you guys should expect from us, all right? In terms of your academic performance here at Within Code, all right? So this just allows us to, to be extremely transparent between the performance team and you guys, okay? And then it also allows for accountability. So you can't come one day and be like, hey, this is what I expected. You'd be like, no, but we showed you our expectation from the start. We can't shift the goalpost now. All right. And then it also just sets a standard because we also have like academic performance that you need to meet. And if you don't meet that and you fall below the bar, then there should be consequences for that. Because at the end of the day, we want to graduate the most technical, brilliant graduates like we've been doing all throughout the years, right? Now, let me just go. So I won't go through it, but I'll just give like an overview as I'm going through it, okay? So what's expected from you guys is to actually familiarize yourself with this document specifically. So you should be familiar with it. You should know exactly what goes on in here so that you don't get confused anyhow during your time at Within Code, all right? And then another expectation that we have from you is that you need to submit all your projects. So as I said yesterday, it's going to get quite intense. Uh, yes, it's going to get quite intense. Your first project will be tomorrow, I think. It's going to be an easy one, which would be just the Hello World project. I think you saw Fen just go through it just now. So it's going to be just a technicality where you just go through it just to see how um, actually the system just responds in terms of the LMS, all right? But from there on, it's a free fall. Next week we start. So uh, that's the expectation from you that week on, week out, you have submissions that you need to meet, you have deadlines, and we need you to do that. All right? Sweet. And then I'll cross the line. We'll also have things like we call picture pictures. Picture pictures are basically just presentations, fun presentations. They're not going to be that hectic. So you have quite a few. And then we'll give you more details on those ones, all right? And then we also will have MCQ questions, maybe let me say formative. So we'll have formative assessments and summative. So formative assessments are basically just those small assessments leading up to the actual test, which will be your summative assessments, okay? And then we also have code written assessments. So basically you have projects that would go weekly or bi-weekly sometimes. And then at some points during the curriculum, you have tests, which will be in the form of formative or a coding assessment. All right. Um, we'll let you know during the course, and then we'll give you a breakdown of what to expect in those things. Okay. So you are expected to meet all those requirements. Failure to attend these assessments and all of that will result in a score of 0, unfortunately. But then if you let us know in time, then with valid reasons like your doctor's notes, then we can make reservations for you to rewrite whatever assessment that you need to write. Because these are quite important to your overall scoring at the end. Okay, moving on. And also, you are expected to participate actively, honestly, positively in all activities that constitute the teaching or learning process, including acting and with integrity in relation to work. Okay. This includes and is not limited to not cheating in any way, falsifying or misrepresenting any of your work. All right. This one is very important, but I think we'll touch on it a bit later when we go through our cheating policy. Okay, cool. And as you know, guys, Within Code is a peer-to-peer learning place. Of course, with the support of the SP team on your side. But then you should take owners of your work. So you should be monitoring your own work. You should know, like, as Wonder Boy, be like, hey, I think I'm struggling. I'm trying, but I think I'm struggling. Maybe let me reach out to Busan and see how Busan can best help me as part of the government's team, right? Only you guys know your strengths, okay? Because most we'll reach out to you, but then most probably because you guys are quite a lot, when we reach out to you, it will be quite late, where we're like, okay, cool, this person, it's been 2 or 3 months down the line and they're still not getting it. But then if you like a month down the line or even a few weeks down the line, you're like, hey, I think I need help, then you should reach out in time, right? So this is something that we do expect from you. Okay, sweet. Again, just log sick leave if you have any, if you be absent and stuff. I think they touched on that yesterday. Okay, sweet. So now I touched a bit on this, but let me just touch on more on it. So what do we have in these semesters? Okay. So we have some LMS administered projects. These projects are an integral part of our academic approach, designed to reinforce concepts through hands-on practical applications. These projects typically follow a 2-week or 1-week iteration model, providing students with real-world scenarios to solve. Okay, so this is what I said, that you guys will be handed projects on a weekly basis, sometimes on a bi-weekly basis, and you'll be expected to deliver on those. Okay. Moving on, I will explain how that scoring works. And then what other projects do we have? I think I also already touched on this one. We have formative and summative assessments. Okay. The formative assessments are those small assessments which lead up to your actual test or summative assessment at the end of every semester. Okay. Any questions so far? No questions so far. Okay, I can move on. Okay, I can move on. I think I already touched on this one here. Okay, cool. So now, one of the most important aspects of being a software dev or just an engineer in general is constantly working with your peers, right? So that would involve things like code pairing. So what code pairing is you just sitting down with your peer and just working together to find a solution towards a common problem. So basically, you sitting down one PC and we coding together, right? So another one is, hey, I've written some code here and I think it works. I think it works. Uh, but then you know what? Let me pass it on to 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 Jay. Let me pass it on to Jay and just have a look at my code and see if maybe I wrote the right code or something like that. All right. I'm trying to explain it a bit more basic, but then it's way more complex than that. But basically, what that is a code review. All right. So code reviews are quite integral to just your journey in general. So they just help you also just enhance your skills in general. So if I have my code and I'm like, hey Jay, please just have a look at my code. I think it works, but then also I'm not sure. Or sometimes I'm like, I'm pretty sure my code works. And then Jay would go ahead and review my code. And then Jay would be like, your code works, but then there's a better way of doing it. So I would have 50 lines of code and I'll be like, my code works and I have 50 lines of code. And Jay would be like, I think you can write this in like 5 lines of code. Right. This is how you can improve. This is the type of documentation that you should be reading. Um, and then for me, it'll be a learning opportunity like, whoa, I didn't think of it like that. So essentially we have code reviews. It's a learning process between two parties which are involved. Could be two, could be three, or whatever, how many parties that are involved in a code review, but then it's always a learning opportunity, right? But then as part of the code reviews, we also use it as part of your grading, which is very important. So this is why it's going to be very compulsory for you to always attend your reviews, all right? So the moment we assign you a reviewer or a reviewee, whichever kind, and then we'll give you a due date, like, hey, these reviews need to be done at a certain time, something like that. You'd be obligated to actually just finish that review. Okay. Um, and in your reviews, you'll be expected to be as honest as possible, um, and use it as a learning opportunity between whatever parties, as I said, that would be involved in that review. Okay, so that will be very important. So again, I spoke projects that you guys will be given on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, sometimes even three. You'll see as time goes on. So it's those projects, and then we will have coding and MCQ assessments, which could be formative or summative, right? And then I'm also talking about code reviews, right? So now I've spoken about three data points that we use to score you guys. Okay. Any questions so far? No questions. I guess I can move on.
There is, yeah.
I don't know if my question is, but all I ask is situation versus we use this that maybe at home and then you know that maybe the same or it for high on the capabilities that
Requires different dependencies here.
yeah, so what do you do next?
I don't think it makes it.
So long as it was high, my
So there's I think Wissam,
Yeah, I didn't hear a thing. I didn't hear a thing.
yeah, I'm gonna relate to you. The question is about using different operating systems, and does it affect the submissions?
Oh, no, no, no. The issue of it works on my machine. No, no, it will not. Hopefully it will not, but more times than, yeah, no, it won't. But I guess maybe let that be a bridge that we cross when we get there. So, but so far you guys you have PCs, right? So we've assigned you guys PCs, and our operating system of choice is Pop! OS that we have, which is a Linux-based system as well. We've do we've had other people use Ubuntu. We've had other people use Windows, um, and we've never had problems. We've had others use what's the iOS as well. I don't think we've encountered problems, but if we encounter problems, it's always a good use case for us to see how we can better debug our systems. So, but then I don't think it should be a problem, which whatever OS you use on your PC. Can you move on? Okay,
Yeah,
guys, please ask. Yeah, ask relevant questions to what I'm speaking about because this is going to be very important. But thank you for the question. Okay, cool. Now, I just want to touch this one on code reviews, right? So code reviews are going to be very important. They're going to occur many, many times during the course. Maybe we'll have a complete different session where we actually break down uh, what should go on in a review, right? And what we expect from you in a review. And then maybe we'll give you a demo of how a review should be conducted. Um, but then sometimes it might happen that because reviews are going to start with you guys, they're sitting together as colleagues and just reviewing each other. And it's going to be important that, say, for example, it happens sometimes when, say, I meet Jay for the first time, and Jay has a lot of experience, and they're just within code, but then they've been coding for 3, 4, 5 years, right? And then come me, I'm completely new to coding. The first time I'm seeing code is literally here within code, and then now Jay is reviewing me, and then sometimes it happens that Jay might sound disrespectful and might impose himself and be like, "No, but you wrote this code wrong. Why are you thinking like that? You're stupid." Okay, but please don't use such words, all right? And the aim is for for code reviews to, yeah. Jay, you were saying?
Oh no, continue, man. Sorry.
Yeah. So code reviews are meant to be a learning opportunity for both for parties, right? So instead of Jay saying, "No, you're stupid. Why are you thinking like that?" Jay should be like, I see the approach that you took, but I think maybe you could try it like this. I think this will work best. And hey, here's an extra resource that I used, and I think it'll best help you as well in order for you to have maybe a different approach to these sort of problems, right? So now you see two different things because you definitely don't want to overwhelm the next party. And then now I'm having imposter syndrome. Now I'm closed in. Now I don't want to do reviews anymore. And now I'm never ever going to grow like that because now, yeah. So it goes for both parties. Even if with you we are talking, you're appearing like that, it means that as a person you never grow. And one thing is that you never know everything. Okay. So again, for reviews, very, very important. You guys will be doing these more often. We've had situations where people are very disrespectful to each other. Over time, it gets better because we do have these conversations and they're always ongoing. But then let's nip it in the bud. Early code reviews are meant to be respectful, learning opportunity for all parties involved. Okay. But then again, we'll send you this document and everything is touched on. Yeah. Now, let me move on. So, in your time, you guys will be also exposed to group projects. Okay. Um, so group projects, basically, you guys just one project, and you guys will just be pushing your code there and working together to solve that problem, right? Um, uh, you'll be expected to participate in those groups, okay? And you guys will be scored accordingly, all right? So, and um, the social aspects will be scored, the technical aspects will be scored. So, because we are just not like extremely technical, you need to find a balance, know how to work with people, right? Um, from the two things that I've just spoken about, the common theme is interactions. Code reviews, always interacting. Spoke about code pairing. It has to do with interactions. Group projects, it has to do with interactions. So the thing, it's always about people. And it doesn't just, it's not here just everything code. It even extends at work. Everything that you do, you always need to be interacting. Okay. So if you've struggled to interact with people, the best place to learn how to do that is here. And that's why you're forced in that peer-to-peer learning environment to get out of your shell and grow and learn, right? So if you struggle with interaction, this is the best place to learn, fix out. So you're going to do all these things. So these are things that you should expect during the course, right? Okay, moving on. Now, here's the most important part now. How do we monitor your progress? Okay. Um, I continue. I just want to say that this is subject to change. We are making a few changes to this, but then this should give you like an overview, right? This is just an overview of how we would actually score you, even though we'll be changing a few things here, but then you should get a rough idea of how everything is going. All right. Sweet. So now, as a performance team, SP is student performance, primarily utilizes performance scale descriptors. So we'll show you how the scale descriptors that I'm speaking about look like. We use the scale descriptors to assess and categorize student performance. Okay, we'll show you how that looks like just a second. So now, this is how it is. Let me look for it. Let me look for it. It's somewhere in the index. It's so far. Maybe you should bring it up there. So this is how it looks. So what I'm going to do for you guys is that I'm going to break down what each means. All right. I did that up there. So far, are there any questions?
Questions? Yes.
Apart from those, are you able to prepare or is it anonymous?
They're asking about the nature of the reviews. Will they be able to know who's reviewing them?
Yes, yes. So you will be able to know who is reviewing you. We are currently in the process of improving the review system from what it is at the current moment. But then the idea is that you always know who is reviewing you. So with the current format is that you, for a reviewer and a reviewee, you are both expected to be present in a review. So if I'm reviewing Jay, if I'm reviewing Jay, I can't review Jay without their presence because maybe I will have access to their code base, but I can't review Jay without their presence there because Jay would have to walk me through his project. So like, hey, so this is the project. So here I was trying to do this, I was trying to do this, walk me through the code and da 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 da. And then so that he could give me a better understanding of what he was trying to write in your code. So for me, if I was reviewing Jay without his presence there, right? Now I'm looking at Jay's code. I'm like, no, no, don't understand what Jay is writing here. No, no. And then now I'm just incorrectly or unfairly scoring Jay, all because I have a different approach and I just don't understand what Jay wrote in the code. Right? So that's completely unfair. So the best way to approach these reviews is that you guys um, be in the same setting and then walk each other through your code, right? Go through in detail, like, hey, so here, 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 here. This is what was expected. This is what I achieved. This is what I did. And then you do that, right? But we'll have a whole session about reviews, and then you guys will have a better understanding of how these code reviews will go, right? I hope that um, helps. Okay, great. Oh, well,
There's another question, sorry, Wissam. Yeah.
sure, sure.
Okay. How do you deal with non-contributors in group projects?
Yes, so that's exactly what we're working on, but also we do have our own structure on how we actually deal with that. So we usually deduct some scores from your overall project. So usually it will be like 30% of the scoring, or sometimes zero. So it's at our discretion how we actually review you. So yeah, we do deal with non-contributors. But then I'm just going to state this now as early as possible. Please let's not get to that point, right? Let's not get to that point or where we have a situation of non-contributors because it's never nice doing, yeah, it's never nice taking away from someone, right? So if you're someone who's having, yeah, so if you're having struggles, you're struggling to understand the content, struggling to understand the project specifications, or maybe you just have some personal problems that you're dealing with and they're hindering you from doing the work, reach out and reach out in time. Don't reach out on the day where you have a demo that you need to present and be like, oh no, I was having problems. No, no, reach out in time. Let's be professional about it, right? It does happen, but then please just not get there. Sweet. Let me move on.
There's two more.
Two more. Interesting. Okay, cool.
It's where one of this project and
It's funny for me because most of the questions I know the answers to, but I'll just pose them to you. Will there be instances where they have both personal and group projects running concurrently?
Yes, yes, there will be those instances. It might happen, but so usually it happens where when if you are behind in your projects. Usually when you're behind in your projects, then you'd have conflicting like your group project and your personal project. Um, we don't encourage for that to happen. That's not something that we want for to happen. Okay. But then yes, it does happen. Sometimes we allow it. Maybe we'll give you a deadline. We'll be like, hey, you are behind. We are giving you a deadline. And when we set a deadline, we are serious. Otherwise, it's a performance warning. But we'll deal with the performance warnings later. We'll break down what that is and how they look like. But again, just in short, we it might happen, but then that's not something that we aim for. So far, the way our calendar is structured is that everything goes in their own timeline. So we have personal projects that you need to be working on, and that's that. Then at some points we have group projects that you need to be working on, and that's that. If there are conflicts, just know that you are behind with your work. Sure. And then what's the other one?
Yes.
uh, said that you would get deductions based on, let's say, somebody not contributing. However, since we're using Git, I can see the level of contributions from, let's say, a group of four. Let's say if one person is not contributing as much, or let's say there's like 20, let's say the others all committed like 20 each, that person kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
It would still, so we're still going to be affected throughout the whole project. Because I do recognize that in a workplace environment, it has to be done regardless. But then, let's say we complete the project, like we pick up and complete the project, will we still be penalized with that person not contributing? Because that doesn't seem
Oh, sorry. I think maybe that was not clear. It's not the whole team that gets penalized. It's that person who's not contributing.
yeah, because that's what I already said. Like,
Oh,
say
no,
the
no.
whole project.
Yeah, the person who's not contributing. Okay. I think I did answer that one, Wissam. You can continue.
So thank you very much. Okay, moving on. So now, here's the most important part. This is the Holy Grail. You should understand this one, right? You should know. So now we have our performance scale descriptors. So this is how we actually get to score you. We try to keep it as simple as possible, but then at the end we do try to convert these to percentages. So just from an overview, just look at the score that you see there, which is 1. That would be a score between 0 and 20%. And then 2, it'll be from 21% to 40%. And then 3, it'll be from 40 to 60. And then 4, it'll be at 60 to 80. And then 5 would be that 80 to 100. Right? Just have that in your mind. All right. So now for these 1 to 5, use these for your solo project submissions. So these are the ones that you guys will be having on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, right? So how does this work? So the score of 5. So if you initiate, complete, and successfully submit your project within the deadline, right? So you will score a 5, right? So meaning that if the project starts on a Monday, and then say maybe I submit on a Thursday, then I'm setting 1 to 5. Okay. So now let's go to a 4. If you initiate success and then successfully submit your project within 24 hours after the deadline, 24 hours after the deadline. So let's say maybe the deadline is on a Friday, and you submit on a Saturday. So that's still within 24 hours after the deadline. So you will be sitting on the 4 for that project. Sure. Sharp, sharp. Now, let's go to 3. If you submit your project between 2 and 4 days after, but within the first week past the specified deadline, oh, this is confusing me too. If you submit your project between 2 and 4 days after, but within the first week after the specified deadline, then you'll be scoring a 3. All right. And then go to a 2. If you submit your project 5 to 6 days past the deadline, so this is almost a week later, almost a week later. All right. So, and then let's go to a 1. If you submit your project 7 days after the deadline, you'd be at a 1. And then from there on, we deduct a 0 0.1, a 0 0.1, a 0 0.1, a 0 0.1. So the lowest score that you can get, and that's mostly because of the math behind just the elements, how it's set up. The lowest score you could get is literally a 0 0.1. Okay, so imagine just moving from a 5 to a 4 to a 3 to a 2 to a 1 to a 0 0.9, a 0 0.8, a 0 0.8, da 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 da, 0 0.2, 0 0.1. Right, that's literally the lowest scoring you can get. Okay. So now the idea behind this, okay, as you can see, the scoring behind these projects is based on time, right? It's based on time. But then I also want you to look at it from this perspective. I have a project. I get the specific thing, the project specs, right? I get the project specs. Okay, what do? I go through the project specs. I get an idea of what the project needs, and then I go out and do my research. I find out how to go about this, and then I work on the project in order to achieve the solution. All right. So essentially, we are testing you as a software dev. Like, okay, cool. Um, am I able to do research within a specified timeline? Am I able to do research? Can I do the necessary research? Am I able to go and find out? Am I able to go and ask my peers to help me out with this? Um, am I able to implement whatever research that I've made? Am I able to produce it within a certain timeline? You understand? So don't look at it from a scoring like 5, 4, 3. No, no. Look at it from like, okay, you're constantly being challenged to problem solve. It's like even in a hackathon. That's why if I don't know if you guys have attended hackathons. Um, sorry. I just want to answer Jay quickly. Jay, I think Finn went over. They took some of our 30 minutes, so I'm taking back the 30 minutes. I apologize. The 3P is important. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So I don't want you to look at it from a perspective of no, I have 5 and a 4 in there. I want you to look at it from a perspective of, hey, I have project specs. Let me see if I can deliver this. Even in hackathons, if some of you have attended hackathons, you would have hackathons, 24-hour hackathon, a 48-hour hackathon. And that's essentially to test you like, okay, cool, given a certain timeline, are you able to revise the project statement that they would give you? Are you able to 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 give a solution in that timeline, and how quick can you give it? How's your MVP looking? Is it proper? Is it working? Does it have a good outline? Can I build a prototype in that timeline? So essentially, it kind of uses the same ideology. Okay, so that's how I'd like for you to approach it instead of just looking at the scoring. So you're consistently challenging yourself on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly basis to problem solve whatever problems that you get. Okay. So, but then at the end of the day, this is how the scoring looks. I hope that was clear. Okay, moving on. Out of interest, if you just want to see, so this is some of the code that actually goes in the LMS. So we just put it here for you guys to peruse. Once we give you this document, you can go through this by yourselves. I think I already went through it in detail. Right, cool. So, okay, cool. So this just speaks on the formative assessments that we have. So we'll let you know, guys, when the formative assessments come through, and then every time when we have the assessments, we'll also share some learning outcomes with you that will be assessed in those assessments or tests, or right? Because every project has its own learning outcomes, and then at the end of the day, we try to assess that at the end. All right, and that also goes for code written assessments as well. Cool. Moving on. Let's see. Okay, cool. So here we're basically just touching on the types of reviews that we have. So I think I already spoke on you guys will be doing some code reviews, which would be peer-to-peer. So it will be literally you guys being assigned a reviewer or reviewee in somewhere in your class, and then you'll be reviewing each other, right? And then at some points, you guys will have the performance team leading the reviews. So it could be the performance team, it could be some members of the staff, like such as Wonder Boy, who's part of the sourcing team, or Zenani, or even Fen, which who go from the other teams. Sometimes it could be industry experts who are external to Within Code. Like, for example, some of our alumni also just come in sometimes on a voluntary basis just to conduct these reviews and help us. Okay. Um, just a Easter egg. Sometimes they come to scouts, but then let's not talk about that. Okay. So that's just me saying that reviews are quite important. So it will be important for you to take it serious from a peer to peer, and then to the level where you'll be reviewed by professionals. Okay. Okay, cool. Jake, we almost done. Don't worry. Um, all right, cool. So I okay, okay. We can take a break, Jay.
No, 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 continue. You know, you
Okay. Okay, cool.
almost done.
So, okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So I already spoke on the scoring of fives. So as you guys review each other, you will constantly be getting forms as well that you need to fill out in order maybe to score the next person, all right? So the scores would be from a 0 to 5, and essentially you be speaking on the attempts of some of the goal gains, some of the learning outcomes that were supposed to be done for the specific project, all right? So yeah, so you will share this document, and then you guys will see. Now, I just want to speak on the support mechanisms that we got for you. Okay. Um, so usually what happens is that as you guys embark on your journey within code, we would have mentors for you. So mentors are basically would be top performing students from the other cohorts uh, who would have been hired as mentors, and they would be there just to help you guys and guide you because they would have went through all this content as well. So they'll be there just to guide you as well, the way that they were guided. So it's literally just a cycle every time. Unfortunately, we haven't done that for you in this meantime, but we're working on that. Um, But in the meantime, you have this rare and Lonabo, sorry, Lonabo, we roping you in here. So we have Zure and Lonabo there for SCC. So they will help you out in the meantime as we just wrap up some loose ends. And then for CJC, you have Sanele there, and then there'll be me and Paul and some of the performance team as well, just to help you out, um, to mentor you guys as you start. At some point, we let go, and then you continue, right? So with the mentors, which would be us at this point in time, would help you just with the iteration kickoffs for. So on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, we'll be kicking off the projects for you just to show you, okay, this is what we expect from you in this project. This is how you can approach it, and maybe go through the project specifications because the English could be a bit vague. All right. So just to clear up some things. And then also would support you in co-pairing sessions. So sometimes maybe, you have it in your head, but you don't implement. So maybe sometimes we just sit down with you and then just work you through the process of taking your thoughts into the keyboard and making it come to life. So essentially, that's what we do also in those co-pairing sessions. And then one-on-one sessions, stand-ups, and retros as well, right? So that's what we expected in the mentorship program, but we'll give you more detail on this one once we've brushed up a few things on our end. But then again, as a supplement, what we do is that we host workshops for you. So essentially, as you guys go through the fundamentals workshop, which is very, very quite important, as Finn touched on a bit earlier, that it's quite important for you to lock down the basics as early as possible. So as the performance team will be better supporting you, we'll have workshops for you, just touching on the basics, reinforcing, so that, by the time that fundamentals is done, which is your first semester, you can tackle all the other projects that will be upcoming because they'll be a bit more complex, right? Moving on. Now, what I have here is a breakdown of how this looks like on a semester to semester basis and on a yearly basis, right? So let me break it down for you. So within code, it's a 16-month program, right? And weirdly enough, in that 16 month, we have 2 years, which just shows that we live in our own universe, the multi-universe, the Marvel one. So in that 16 month, we have 2 years. So meaning that 1 year would spend 8 months. All right. So in the first 8 months, we'll be going through the first year, and that first year will culminate of 2 semesters, which would be your first semester and your second semester. All right. So in the first semester, it's the fundamentals module, which you guys will be starting with immediately next week, right? So that will have some solo projects in there, and then we'll also have code written assessments. I think I've been speaking on this quite a lot as well, right? Um, so the solo projects, so these would be projects that go on a weekly. So this is the scoring that it would have, right? And then we also have these assessments as well. And here you can see a breakdown. So code written assessments, and then we'd have some tutorials here and there. And then we have your formative and summative assessments. And that is the scoring. And here we'll have a group project. So this one I was skipping because it's quite tentative. So we're still planning around the group project for first semester, right? So all of this is subject to change. By the time we send it to you, it'll be final though. So we're just working on this one. But then the first semester will make up 50% of your first year. First semester will make up 50% of your first year. Now you can see the other scoring. Moving on, same thing for semester 2, where we'll be going deeper into object-oriented programming. As you can see, the structure is quite similar, it's almost the same. And second semester will also be 50% of your first year. So 50 and 50, that makes up 100%. All right. So that will be your first year all wrapped up. Moving on. And then now, the first 8 months finishes. We move on to your second year. Okay. Again, for you to qualify for second year, you need to pass your first year. But then we'll break that down just now. So now we have your year two, and your year two will culminate again of 2 semesters, which would be your semester 3 and your semester 4. Okay. So here, the main focus will be web development and something that we call brownfields. Okay. I think Fen touched a bit on that as well. But as you can see, the scoring is actually quite similar to what you saw up there. So the structure is more or less quite the same, right? But then your third semester again your third semester will weigh 50% as well. Okay. And then we have your semester 4. Now your semester 4 is where we would give you guys some electives to do. So here in this document, because it's not updated just yet, we have systems integration, mobile development, quality assurance, data engineering. What's the other one? Guys, please remind me. Cloud computing, and I think there's an AI one coming up as well. So you guys will have options, all right? So we'll give you an opportunity to choose for yourselves. And then whatever elective that you'll be doing, it's literally scored quite similar as well, right? And that will also weigh 50% of your fourth semester. So in order for you to be graduation eligible, we would focus on your second year score. Again, in order to get to second year, you need to qualify. So you don't move on from first to second just like that. You need to qualify. Then when you get to second, in order for you to be graduation eligible, you also need to pass your second year. What do we need to do that? So here we have a semester-based progression, and this is how it looks like. So for your first semester, you need a minimum score of 50%, okay? For your first semester, you need a minimum score of 50%. All your projects need to be submitted. They all need to be done, and every outstanding work needs to be done, all right? And then second semester, same thing. And then in order to progress to the second year, you need a score of 50%. Okay, anything short of 50% would result in an academic exclusion from Ethan Code. Anything short of 50%, it's chai. All right. Now, moving on for you guys to be actually graduation eligible for Within Code. So we have 2 semesters again. 50% goes to semester 3. All your projects need to be submitted. And same thing with semester 4. All right. And then in order for you to be graduation eligible, you need to hit a score minimum of 60%. 60%. Okay. 60%. Okay. So for you to be graduation eligible, you need to hit 60%. Let me see how far are we. Okay, cool. I think we're just touching on cheating and yeah, so we're just touching on cheating and performance warnings. Okay, let me do performance warnings quickly. So performance warnings go like this. So if you guys, if you're behind with your work, okay, if you're extremely behind with your work, you'd be hit with a performance warning, okay? So a maximum of 3 warnings in 1 semester results in an academic exclusion, right? Because there's many means to help you guys during the course. And if you don't use that, then there's no way that we can help you. So a maximum of 30 performance warnings in one semester results in an academic exclusion. All right. Yes. So we'll give you guys just to go through this, but then that's essentially the gist of it. And one other thing is that we are big on cheating. Cheating is non-negotiable. If you cheat, that results in an immediate dismissal. Okay. So please, guys, let's avoid cheating. I know it's pretty hard lately with the use of AI and all of that, but then it's always nice to just use your head, right? Use what I mean when I say we are big on cheating, I'm saying that we don't endorse cheating. We don't endorse cheating. We don't like cheaters. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So please, guys, just make sure that we don't cheat. Okay. Um, yeah. So essentially, this is just of it. Otherwise, it further breaks down what cheating is. Okay. Maybe we'll have a different session on what cheating is, the use of AI. The best you can do is use your AI to learn, right? It's there to help you learn in your journey. But then the moment comes to your projects or especially tests and assessments, please let's not do that. And I think I have touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. Thank you very much. Jay?
Okay, thanks, Wissam. Do you have any questions? The no was very quick, by the way. Yes, was ahead, yeah.
How will how would it be using AI cheating?
Can you talk a bit about cheating versus AI?
You were cutting there, Jay. Can you just repeat your question?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
All right. The question is about the usage of AI and how would that be identified as cheating, or the role of
Okay,
AI in cheating?
okay, cool. Actually quite a big thing at the current moment. Um, the whole AI thing, because what it's not that we do not endorse the use of AI. You can use AI for learning. I think it's very helpful. I use it on day as well with some of my projects, and it's definitely going to help you as well. Okay. Um, but then it's this one for me is more specific on if we are working on a project. Again, remember that we constantly review these projects. We constantly review these projects. So I call out Jay. I'm like, hey Jay, just walk me through your project. Jay doesn't know anything, but then they have claimed the project to be theirs, right? So that already raises a red flag. So it shows that it's not your intellectual property, which is something that we are totally against as well. So you can use AI to help you. Hey, let's build a project. Hey, okay, I see this code. Okay, let's pop it in there. Let's see, and you understand exactly what's happening. If you're someone who just goes to ChatGPT and then it says, "Hey, ChatGPT," um, I know people who call ChatGPT Mchimaro as a nickname, so I'm gonna use Mchimaro. So like, "Hey, Mchimaro, um, do this for me," and then Chimaron does that for you, and then all of a sudden your code is done, and then you're like, yeah, everything's great, perfect, and move on. But then you not gain anything that needs to be learned in that learning outcome. That's a problem. And then also goes to these assessments that we'll be constantly having, um, where maybe you use co-pilot and all of that, then it's not showing fairness as well. So these are that we do look out for. Um, You can use AI as a learning opportunity, use it to help you build your projects, but as long as the knowledge is there and you are able to articulate and understand exactly what's happening, we are good. Jay?
All right. Thanks, Pisang. I think Lonwabo has a question there.
Lonabo?
Lonwabo.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, Busang, can you please clarify on graduating and also making into second year? So the question is, if a student happens to make it through to second year and doesn't meet the requirements in graduating, what are the measures taken? And also, in failing to make it through to second year, what happens?
You get that, Pisang?
Okay, so extra measures. Yes, I think I did. Okay, cool. So we are currently looking into seeing if we can have supplementary assessments uh, in order to better support people maybe who might not meet the mark. But then again, it's not going to be a blanket thing where you failed, so let's have you do with supplementary. You probably need to qualify. Like for example, I don't know if some of you have been to varsity or anything like that. So the criteria would be like, okay, cool, you need to meet 50%. You don't meet 50%, but maybe you fall within between 40 to 50%, for example. And that would most probably qualify you to actually write the supplementary assessments, right? Um, so that's something that we just looking into just to see if we can better support people who may be, well short of. And then even in the supplementary, there's a certain score that you would need to reach in order for you to at least pass, or at least pass. Yeah, I hope that helped.
Okay, thank you.
Uh, Thank you so much, Pisang. And I think right now we're just gonna take a break. We're gonna take a 15 minutes break. We might have a short day if you cooperate with me. If not, then we might gonna leave. We might need to leave maybe at 5. Depends on whether or not you like to cooperate. So when we come back, we're gonna talk to Lee about the communication platforms, and then we're gonna talk accreditation with Ruan. Then for induction, we're gonna coordinate it. Shafiq and I will be taking fingerprints. I'm not sure if Lonabo and Zubair will be doing fingerprints as well, but that's just the order of the day. We might have a short day. That's if you have. Right. So for now, let's have a 15 minutes break. Coming back, our guidance. What I need to moderate the coordination. All right, John. Let's come back at 25 past. All right, we are back, and yeah, we only left with two speakers for today's induction, Lee and Ruwan. Then we'll do fingerprints, and then you can continue. Great. All right, Lee. Lee.
Hello.
Yes. I don't know. I'll give you sharing power so that you may share the screen on your side.
Cool. Cool. Can you guys see my screen? Hello?
You can leave.
See my screen? Is it my network or Jay's?
Not sure. Can someone from Cape Town please confirm? Or Donavo, can you confirm that you can hear me? Okay, it's
Hello? Audible?
gonna get better with
Can you hear me? Is my connection fine?
Lee, I can hear you just fine from
Okay.
my side.
I'm just gonna assume you'll be able to. Okay, so Jay's the problem. Okay, thank you very much. Cool. So to the curriculum. So I'm just going to cover uh, uh, the communication tools at Within Code. If we go to Induction, communication tools. On the curriculum side, you'll see that there are only two forms of communication. It's email and matrix. Now, for anything important, events, event information, document information, campus related operations information, student performance information. Um, each relevant team will communicate with you via email. It's important that you constantly check your emails daily, hourly, how you choose. But we ask that you check your information or check your emails and have your notifications on for your emails every day so that you don't miss anything important. Um, will sometimes, for some of the more important things, also shared via Matrix, which you'll have access to. So you can access it via this link on the curriculum site. And so I and just your house in. Um, edit this. So you won't get this exact thing, or maybe you will. Let me actually just open the link. Thank you, and code.ca.za. and you'll be met with this, right? So you can click on sign in, and the home service already changed, which is great. So what we do is continue with account, because we have already created an account for you. All you need to do is sign with the student account, and what will happen is it will then sync the two, right? So click continue. You need to make sure that you verify. In this case, I have already. Oh, wait, back. You will set up a key. So just do this. One. Can just reset it. It's fine. Generate a key, and then you can download it or copy it, but save it somewhere so that you don't lose it. No. Oh, there we go. Uh, continue. So, why? Okay, cancel, cancel. It'll go up. Um, cool. So once you signed in, you should a notification or invitation to Within Code community, right? Um, accept the invitation, and then you'll have access to our server or our Within Code community space, and immediately you'll see rooms which you can access, and these are all open spaces. So we have Campus General, which is all communications across all campuses, across all cohorts. And this is more for if you guys want to interact with each other, but it's more specifically for us as performance team, as the operations team, as we would staff, um, to share campus-wide information to all our students at once. Then here's an example of a campus-specific announcements channel. So there's Joburg, there's Cape Town, there's CJC, and there's South Cape. Those are closed channels or privatized channels, so you need an invitation to join. So you will once you guys have signed into Matrix on CJC campus. Sanele will invite you to the room, and then from there you will have access to the channel. And on South Cape, between Zubair and Lonwabo, they will invite you, and then you will have access to the space, right? Um, on those specific channels are campus specific information. So if there's events on the campus, if there's things that we want to share with that specific campus, that's where that information is shared. If you guys want to chat amongst yourselves on the campus, that's something you can do on there. Then we have the WTC events. This is campus-wide events, campus-specific events, or cohort-wide events that's happening. If you want to join, whether online, in-person, stuff like that, this is something where you guys generally, or students generally, share information about it to get engagement. So please join that if you are really keen on joining events. There are some other channels as well, so like the channel. Okay, that. The random channel is where we share jokes and memes. Obviously, nothing, no like, what's the word? Uh, so just keep it respectful. It's meant to be a place of enjoyment. So share memes, jokes, whether it be coding jokes or jokes about the work, stuff like that. You can do that over there. So if you want to join any of these channels, all you simply click here on there, and just and once you have it, you will be in the channel, right? So you'll see that. So I'm going to share this account to one of the campus channels so that you can see what it looks like. So invite. Uh, yeah. So I've got an invitation. You see this a red notification. Uh, you've been invited to join the South Cape Campus Announcements channel. Accept invitation, and now I have access to the South Cape Campus Announcements channel, right? So that will be done for you to join your, once you sign into Matrix. We'll do that for you so that you can access that. There are other channels that we'll invite you to as well, but that will be at a later stage. So for now, as long as you're in those channels, everything should be fine, right? Then along, it's a humble request that you go to your settings and under your profile, please make sure that your display name displays your username, so your student username, and then update the profile picture of a nice photo of yourself, so we can see your face clearly. Because often when you're getting assisted by someone that's not on the campus with you, it's much easier to picture the person that you're having a conversation with, so that the engagement can be more friendly as well, right? Any questions?
Nothing so far.
Okay. I'm opening YouTube. see if there are any questions there. Nothing at the moment. If there aren't any questions, and yeah, if you do have any questions later on, feel free to ask any of the staff, person to assist you. And then once you are onboarded on the matrix, you can reach to any of the staff members for assistance. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Let's move on to Ruan. Hi, Ruan.
Hey Jay, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Cool. Hi everyone. You guys made me yesterday. Let me just share screen. Let's hope this works out nicely. Screen sharing is paused. Is it the okay? Is it sharing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. So I'm heading up accreditation. This is pretty quick. We will go through it. So the purpose of QCTO is to evaluate students on whether they have met the requirements set out by QCTO standards in order to be accredited with an NQF qualification. The qualification you guys are doing is vocational, so it's the occupational certificate, NQF 6. It's not a diploma, but it's at diploma level. It's broken up into 3 modules. Your knowledge module, which is basically like learning and applying your knowledge. So it's mostly like written assessments or multiple choice questions. The practical skills module is coding itself, which is your every single day. Remember, this is all baked into the curriculum. So everything you do counts towards your QCTO accreditation, which is why you have to complete everything. Everything has to be completed. Every piece of work you do, everything you do is really, really important. When documents get sent out, you need to be signing things. It's really, really important to keep up to date. And the third one is the work experience module. The work experience module is also baked into the curriculum itself, which is your team stand-ups, your meetings, which is why you have to attend absolutely everything and you have to follow what we do. So keep focused for your duration and in code. Internal assessments. So there's assessments every few weeks, and we're going to be evaluating your competence and your knowledge. And then the last one is your external exam, which is not written, which is not a We Think Code exam, it's a QCTO exam. So your portfolio that you do based on your knowledge, practical and work experience modules is what you need to pass in order to be to qualify to write the external exam. The external exam is not a written exam, it's a practical exam. So you get the project, you have 2 weeks to complete it. Well, this is according to the last time I checked. QCTO does tend to change things, so but we'll keep you up to date on any changes. So the requirements, you need any NQF4. Yeah, any NQF4 is required for the NQF6. This is one of the only programs that allows you to jump from an NQF4 to an NQF6. And it must be recognized by SAQA, which is the South African Qualifications Association. So if you have a Cambridge certificate or you have own A levels, you need a conversion certificate from SAQA. You can visit the link to follow and have your accreditation switched over. And yeah, last thing, no deadlines may be missed. There are many documents that require attention and need to be filled in accurately. So yeah, I think that is basically it, because everything else has been presented and is in the curriculum itself. So let me know if you have any questions so that I can answer.
Sorry, do you have any questions pertaining accreditation? Yes, sir.
Hi. So I'd like to know how credit is the program.
I
All
can't
right.
hear.
The question is, how many credits does the program offer?
240.
To put. Any other question? Are we all clear? Yes, sir.
How do you rate from
Right. Do we have a path to upgrade from 6 to 7? What?
As for now, we don't offer it, but we are looking at it in the future. So if you want to do your NQF7, you would need to find the university or qualification which it moves into. So different universities have different requirements. Because it's a vocational certificate, you may still need to do some certain bridging courses to do your NQF7. But I'm pretty sure a lot of the credits, not sure. I know that some of the credits will count towards the accreditation, but not all universities are the same. And remember that this qualification also only came out in end of 2020, so I would say 2023. So it's still new, and I'm not sure if all universities have it on their list of things that count towards it. But if you have more direct questions, I can do some research and let you know. Any questions from Southgate College? Okay, are we doing CJC first?
No, South Cape is quite quiet. I'm not sure if Lonabo has any questions. Are you getting any questions on your side, Lonabo? Okay, while waiting for that, are there any other questions on this side? Anything relating to accreditation? Okay. Lonabo, Zube? Zube? Yeah, no, I don't know what's happening on that side, but it seems like we don't have any other questions on our side.
All right, cool. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, so that then brings us to the end of day 2 of induction. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Wonderboy, thank you for joining us. Who else is in the call? Zenani, thank you for joining us. Simtandile, thank you for joining us. Zubair, Ronabo, thank you guys. So right now what we will be doing is, like I said, the official part of the day is over. So to make the day shorter and the week shorter, so that we can get straight to the serious stuff, we're gonna do fingerprints today. So Zubair and Lonabo will help out with South Cape, and myself and Shafiq will be capturing fingerprints in the other room. So we'd appreciate if we were to try and cooperate so we can make it quicker. If there are people who want to eat, you can go and eat, but let it not be that we're sitting that side and no one is there. So rather let's have a mini queue taking place so that we can catch up quickly and talk about it. Right. Thank you guys. Yes. Bye. One.